everyone, it's Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to crochet a cute and useful football coaster. It measures about 6 inches by 3 inches across, so it's a nice good size for any of your coffee mugs or cans of soda or maybe a bottle of beer or whatever you're drinking, maybe an iced tea. And they're great for Father's Day, but they're also great for anybody who loves football. If you're going to have a football party, you could make one for all of your guests and maybe embroider their name or something on it and then let them take it home as a souvenir from your wonderful football party. This is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. What you're going to need to make a football coaster is less than an ounce of yarn. I'm using a worsted weight number 4 for our demonstration today, and I'm going to use this lighter beige just so that you can see my stitches and some white that I have on hand. This one is made with cotton, sugar and cream. This is a variegated. It's called Tierra, and so Tierra Firma, sorry. And this is just a cream cotton that I had on hand. When it comes to coasters, if you're going to be using them on something that's cold, that's going to sweat, it's a good idea to make them out of the cotton. But if you're just going to use them to protect a wood surface so that the glass or mug doesn't scrape the wood or the tile, a worsted weight acrylic is just fine. Just make sure that it's a medium number 4 for what you're going to be needing to make the coaster. We're going to be stitching today with our H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle to weave your ends in and to sew on our stitching, and then of course you'll need a pair of scissors. We'll be starting in the center of our coaster and working our way out. We'll do this edge trim and then we'll do the outside edges to form the shape of the football. We're going to begin with a slip knot, and then we're going to chain 5. The first chain 3 will count as our first double crochet, and we're going to stitch 9 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. The double crochet is yarn over, go in the chain or stitch, and pull up a loop. Yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2 loops. That's our double crochet. So our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and we're stitching 9 more right in that same chain. If you prefer to do the magic circle, that is fine as well. You need to do whatever works best for you. Alright, let's see how many double crochets I have stitched. Here's my chain 3, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. For row 1 or round 1, you should have 10 double crochets. Don't worry about that little hole if you have one. We're going to use the tail of yarn to come back in and close that up. For row 2, we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. Our chain 3 counted as our first double crochet. And now we're going to place 2 double crochets in each of the stitches around. We have 10 double crochets. We're stitching 2 double crochets in each stitch, and so that's going to give us 20 double crochets. So I'm going to stitch 2 double crochets in each stitch around, and then I'll join back to my chain 3 with a slip stitch. I've stitched 2 double crochets in each of the double crochets around, so I have 20 double crochets on round or row 2. I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. And we're going to repeat what we did on row 2 on row 3. The only difference is we'll have a lot more stitches. 1 double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3 because it counts as our first double crochet, and then we'll stitch 2 double crochets in each of those 20 double crochets around, and so that's going to give us 40 double crochets, and it's also going to give us a nice flat coaster. So I'm going to continue on around stitching 2 double crochets in each of those double crochets around. Stitch on around. When I get back to my chain 3, I'll join it, and then we're only going to chain 1. I've completed row 3, 2 double crochets in each double crochet around, so now we have 40 double crochets. We're going to join to the top of the chain 3 with a slip stitch, and we're only going to chain 1. This next row we're going to be stitching this little ridge, and this ridge, the purpose of it is so when you put your cup or glass here, it helps it stay put. If you want to skip this row and go straight to row 5, you can. It's up to you. It will not affect the shape of your football if you don't want to have that little ridge. All right, so what we're going to be doing for row 4 is stitching in the front loops, and we're going to be placing a single crochet in each of the front loops. So when you look at the top of your stitches, you have what looks like a braid. You have a loop on the front, and the front loop is the loop that's facing you. The back loop, which where we'll be stitching row 5, is the loop that's on the back side, or the loop that's facing away from you. So what we're going to do, we chained 1, we're going to go right in that first front loop only and stitch a single crochet. And we'll do this all the way around. Go in the front loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through both loops. Stitching only in the front loops. 1 single crochet in each of the front loops, working all the way around. Let me do a few more so I can show you how it looks on the front and the back. All right, so the front's going to look like this. You're going to have that row of single crochets, and then back here you'll see that it sort of stands up, and you'll have those rows of loops there. When we come back and do row 5, we're going to be stitching in those back loops. All right, so I'm going to continue working around, stitching 1 single crochet in each of the front loops of row 3. One single crochet in each stitch around, working in the front loops only. I've completed this row. 1 single crochet in each of the front loops around, and I'm going to join to the first single crochet, not the chain 1, but the first single crochet with a slip stitch, and I'm going to chain 3. All right, now you're going to be stitching in the back loops, and if you look at it, you can see there's a row of loops we didn't stitch in all the way around. And we're going to be forming the two ends of the shape of our football. All right, so we're going to, what I do is I press that kind of forward so I can see those loops. I'm going to go right in that first loop and stitch a slip stitch just to get me down there. And now we're going to form the shape, and I'm going to follow my notes so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. We're going to slip stitch in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to place a single crochet in the next 2. And we're working in the back loops. 1 and 2. Then we're going to stitch 2 half double crochets, 1 in each of the next 2. Yarn over, go in the loop, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 of those loops. Now we're going to stitch a double crochet in the next 2. In this next stitch, we're going to stitch 3 double crochets right in that same loop. All right, so let's backtrack just a little bit. We have 3 slip stitches, 2 single crochets, 2 half double crochets, 2 double crochets, and then 3 double crochets in that one stitch. And now we're going to work back down doing what we did here, only in the opposite. So we'll stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2. We'll stitch a half double crochet in the next 2. We'll stitch a single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And see how that brought us back down? All right, so now we're going to stitch a slip stitch in the next 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And this brings us to the other side, and we're going to repeat what we did over here on this side. So we'll stitch 1 single crochet in the next 2, half double crochet in the next 2, double crochet in the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2. Then we'll stitch 3 double crochets in this next stitch. 1, 2, and 3. So that's our point of our football. And now we're going to work back down. Double crochet in the next 2. 1, 2. Half double crochet in the next 2. 1 and 2. Single crochet in the next 2. 1 and 2. And then we'll slip stitch in these last 4 stitches. 1, 2. Oh, almost lost my loop. Do that one again. 2, 3, and now we're going to do one more right underneath that where we have that chain 3 from the previous row, and then we're going to go over that chain 3 and join to that first slip stitch. And cut our yarn. All right, we're going to tie off. I'm going to turn this over and go in that next stitch and just pull it behind to the back so I can weave that in. And this is how your football should be shaped. You'll have that little chain 3 right there, just where we moved from our single crochet down to our outside edges. And there's your football shape. Now, the next thing we need to do is weave those ends in, and then we'll add those white stripes. So we're going to begin with the one in the center. So I've got my needle. And we're just going to go around this edge of those first stitches. And just pull that in. Now we don't want to make a knot. And the reason that we don't is if you set your cup on this and you've got that little knot, you're going to end up with a rickety cup and you might knock over whatever you're drinking. So we're just going to weave it in until it's nice and tidy, and we'll just clip it. Make sure there's no bumps in there, because like I said, you put your cup on that and it's going to roll around if you have a knot. Alright, let's go ahead and weave in this end, and then I'll show you how to add those white stripes. We're going to make a few stitches down here and over here to look like the stripes that are on the ends of a football, and then we're also going to do this stitching in the middle. So you're going to need about 18 inches of white yarn, and just whatever white or cream you've chosen, put it on your needle. And what we're going to do is we're going to begin down here, we're going to work across and end on the other side. And so where you have your 3 double crochets together, that's your point. And so you're going to go in the double crochet before that. You go in there and then across. And I'm going to leave a little bit of yarn out here for weaving in, just to make sure I have enough. Okay, and then I'm just going to go right up next to that on this end, just so I can get the stripe a little farther on this side. And that's going to sort of tuck in that edge. It's just going to give the appearance of a stripe. All right, so now we're going to go down the center. We want to center off this point and come up on this row. And what I do is I go in, I want to try to keep that line even. If it's not perfect, it's okay. It's, you know, we want to try to keep it as even as possible. So there's a stripe down the center, and now we're going to come out here and do the stripe that's on the end. And after we get this done, we'll come back and do the stitching. And I do it this way because it gives me the least amount of weaving in that I have to do. All right, so I've got that on there. It's all tucked in that corner. And I'm going to come back under here and make the stitches. And you're just going to sort of make, it's going to be a zigzag on the back of your, because you're going to zigzag across, and you can see there's a few stitches here, but that's going to keep you from having to put any kind of a knot or weave that in. Okay. And the amount of stitches is up to you. You can do 4, you can do 5. This one I'm doing 5, the other one I did 4. It doesn't really matter, it's what you like. There we go. So there's all the stitching. That's a little crooked. We can push that over. All right, so there's all the stitching. I'm going to turn this over. And again, we don't want knots, right? So we're just going to weave this in. All right, and then we'll cut that. Then we'll take this one and weave it in. And the reason that I did it that way, we started here, we stitched down, we did here, then we came back. And the reason that I did it that way is it alleviates having to weave in stitches down here, then do this and weave this in, then do this and weave this in. It just eliminates, you know, the knots and weaving in. So there is the football in the lighter color brown, beige, out of the acrylic yarn, and this one is the one made with the cotton yarn. They both work great. I love them both, and it just depends on what you're going to use them for, and of course your preference. If you want them cotton or if you want them acrylic, they both work just fine. The only difference is the cotton, if you have a glass that's going to sweat, will absorb that sweat. Both will protect your table just fine.